Guru Nation, what's up? Welcome back. Glad to have you along for the ride on a Friday. Monica Palaquitiva, MPC, is to my left, maybe on the right. I don't know. Depends how you're looking at it. But the University of Clinical Research behind her. You see that, guys? What we got there? We got a DNA strand. We got an RNA strand in the middle. I don't know. We're up to something. But one of the things we're up to. Well, let's do the shameless plug in the beginning. All right. We have the College of Clinical Research Clinicians starting in May, and then after that, we're going to have it going on every 2 months. So whenever you're watching this in the future, we probably have one. Go underneath the video, go in the show notes, the University of Clinical Research, and you're going to find all of our courses. Right. Another thing is the CRC Academy, always enrolling. We're going to talk about both of those positions in this video because today, as you guessed by clicking on the title, we got a question about independent contractors versus employees. So, and look at this. This is crazy. This person, I'm not going to give her name, but I started reaching out to recruiters on LinkedIn, and this is a pharmacist. Okay. I messaged my fellow colleagues. I had a question. One concern I had for contract positions was if I would be getting a 1099, and does that mean I pay taxes twice? So the answer is no. But who better than somebody who has been a 1099 for my companies in the past? Now she's a business owner, so she's a 1099 and she's a K1 shareholder, amongst probably a bunch of other things. But it's Monica Palaquitiva. She has, I don't know, how long have you been getting 1099 forms as a contractor in your career? The last, what, 5, 6, 7 years?
Probably more than that.
And you don't pay double tax. That's a,
No,
I don't know
no,
where
you
this person
don't.
got
You
that from.
don't. You don't. In fact, obviously, you have to pay your taxes. So you need to learn to be organized with the money, right? You have to start saving money from that money because obviously you're getting paid like gross income, not net. So you need to discount from that. The perks of doing it 1099 is that now you can include more things that belongs to your career. Like for example, uh, I was driving a lot before, so that will be included. But you need to keep the record of that. It's not like you say, okay, so this month I probably drove I don't know 6,000 miles. I'm exaggerating, right? Or or keep the gas spending. So it's either or.
And
And
we should
obviously,
preface this
yeah,
with we're not CPAs. This is not financial advice.
yes.
Contact a good CPA. But Monica's absolutely right because as a W 2 employee, which is not a contractor, you're an employee, you work for a company, you're only supposed to work for that company. Yeah, sure, you can have side jobs, but sometimes there's contracts where you can't. But you're supposed to, you're full-time employee for that company. But every time you get a payroll check, every 2 weeks or every month, usually it's every 2 weeks, the government takes out its taxes, right? So that's the difference between W 2 and 1099. 1099, you're not an employee of the company, you're a contractor. So the company is not responsible for your performance like an employee. The company is responsible for your performance as a contractor still, but it's a different degree of responsibility. And because of that, as a contractor, you're supposed to be more autonomous. So, meaning you're supposed to have more experience, meaning you get paid more as well. But nothing comes out from your taxes. So, at the end of the year, like Monica said, you got to deduct. You can deduct a whole lot of things because you're in business for yourself. And it gets very interesting when we start talking about business trips and marketing because one of the main differences between a W 2 employee and a 1099 contractor is you are actually, as a contractor, a small business. You're your own business. Businesses do marketing to get more business for themselves. And that's where you can get some deductions and write offs at the end of the year Again, not financial advice, but Monica, what are some strategies you've done as a 1099er? And which do you prefer, 1099 or W2?
I prefer 1099 because it gives more flexibility, and also, I mean, obviously, this is for somebody that you have to be disciplined with your money, right? Because obviously, you need to pay taxes back because you didn't pay during the whole year.
Self-employed
Um,
tax.
mhm.
Self-employed tax.
I think you could also do it every 3 months. If I'm not wrong, you could do it that way too, even if you are 1099.
Yeah.
However, I'm not 100% sure. You have to ask your CPA
Ask your
about it.
CPA. That's called quarterly. That's prepaying your tax. So you're supposed to do it
Hmm.
as a self-employed person, whether you're have a LLC or not, which is
Hmm.
kind of it's related to this topic. But being a 1099 contractor, you can be a 1099 under your own social security number, or you can create a LLC and get a 1099 on behalf of your LLC, and then your LLC issues yourself a K1 form at the end of the year. But that gets more complicated. We're just trying to separate the differences, the pros and cons of W2, 1099. One of the advantages of being a W2 employee, however, is usually you get some kind of benefits like healthcare, um, retirement sometimes, and the taxes are paid for you. They're taken out of your paycheck. 1099, you're responsible for all those things yourself. Nobody's making a retirement account for you. Nobody's making nobody's withholding your tax. You're getting paid, like Monica said, gross for everything. Um, but you're usually getting paid more as a contractor at 1099 because you're supposed to have more freedom, more autonomy. The employer is not allowed really to tell you what to do. They can give you a contract as a contractor and say, this is your contract you need to fulfill, but we cannot control how many hours you put into this. Unlike a W 2, where the employer can say you're expected to work X number of hours a week, as a 1099, they're not allowed to do that. So that's one of the benefits of being a 1099 is more freedom, but with more freedom comes more responsibilities as well.
Exactly.
So they're saying which one's better. I guess the answer is depends for different people, right? But we've seen you were a 1099 as a coordinator. You can be a 1099 as a CRA. You can be a 1099 as a sub investigator, as a principal investigator. By the way, you could be a W 2 for all these things too. Generally, so any position in clinical research, you can be a 1099 or a W 2. Generally, 1099 get paid more, but the risk is that you have to constantly be looking for your contracts. They're not guaranteed. Unlike a W 2, where the company hired you, they're going to give you work because you're their employee. With 1099, you got to go out there. You're self-employed. You got to go out there and hunt for new opportunities, which means you can start deducting business trips. Maybe you live in California and you got to go to Florida to meet with a potential client. Well, that's a business expense now. Even if you use a lot of that trip for personal fun and pleasure, you can mix in some business and get the whole thing written off. Again, not tax advice. Talk to your CPAs. They're probably going to tell you I'm an idiot, but there is some elements of truth to this. Another thing is marketing, LinkedIn Premium. If you're a 1099, you could get your LinkedIn Premium deducted. You can take courses like CRC Academy, right? If you're a 1099, that's educational expense. You can take Clinicians Academy. You're paying things to improve your business. As a W2, you can't do that. What else, Monica? What else are we missing?
Yeah, so probably the 1099 is more for entrepreneurial personality than it is the W2. Um, I think it really depends on your on your approach or your personality. It really does depends on that. Um, and obviously the flexibility. But like Dan was saying, in 1099, for example, if you're working from home, you can now deduct also the internet if that's part of your um, uh,
An
expenses.
Yes, another big thing is the home office. You can dedicate a portion of your home to your business. Talk to your CPA, they're going to let you know exactly how much, because when I first learned about this, I told my CPA, let's deduct 100% of my home. He said, slow down. All right, you can't do that, but let's do 10%. Let's do 15. So you have to justify it in some respects, but you're able to do that as well.
Hmm.
And I'm on a website now. It says 1099 versus W2. It's basically exactly what we said. The main difference, this is from stoketalent.com. The main difference between W2 and 1099 workers is that a W2 payroll employee and 1099 is non payroll. Is it better to be one or the other? It says 1099 contractors have a lot more freedom than their W2 peers, what we said. And thanks to a 2017 corporate tax bill, they are allowed significant additional tax deductions from what is called a 20% pass through deduction. However, they often receive fewer benefits and have far more tenuous employment status with the organization, which means if you're going to be a 1099, you're going to have to go constantly look for more business, biz dev. Another thing, sometimes companies, they don't want to risk hiring you as a W2 right away, so they say we're going to give you a 1099 contract. You're going to hear this a lot in research, especially with CRA or CRC. 1099 contract to permanent, meaning they'll sign you as a contractor 1099 for about 6 months or so. If they like you, they'll give you the W2 option, or you can just renew as a contractor. A lot of people, it just depends what you prioritize and what you value. Um, so that's quick little video on that. CRCs for the CRC Academy. I've seen them be 1099. Monica was a 1099. Monica was also a CRC and a patient recruiter, so she was able to deduct a lot of things related to her business, like besides the car and the home office and the mileage, you can deduct things like clothing, uniform. You can deduct, people don't know this, you can deduct a lot of things. You just have to be able to justify it to the IRS.
Yeah, and obviously, depending on the state where you live or where you are located, things can vary too. So make sure you get professional advice like a CPA, so that way
Absolutely.
you do the things correctly. But yeah, the 1572.
That's a good form, but that's not a tax form.
Yeah, no, the 1099 definitely give you more flexibility.
Yeah. Some people, I've talked to people who've done both, and some people much prefer one than the other. Some people, and there's no consensus as to which one they prefer. It's almost split down the middle. It depends on what the person's priorities are, what they want. Okay, do you want more freedom in exchange for more uncertainty? That's 1099. Or do you want more stability in exchange for probably less pay and less freedoms? It depends what you like. Some people like to have fun and action. Biz dev is fun, but it's also stressful if you don't get contracts. And W2, maybe it's not so fun, it's more mundane, but at least you know you're guaranteed health, insurance, retirement, and a stable salary.
Just like the adventure.
And that's that. So, anything else you want to add that we didn't? Or we'll call it a
No,
day?
yeah, I think that's it.
Link underneath to the University of Clinical Research. Link underneath to all of the other stuff. We got the College of Clinical Research Clinicians starting soon. We got the CRC Academy starting again soon. We got the CRA Academy starting soon. No matter when you're watching this, they're starting soon. So check the links underneath. We probably have more courses by then, depending when you're watching in the future. And we're going to have a medical writing. If you waited till the end, we're gonna have a medical writing academy soon. We're gonna have a data management academy soon. Get on the waiting lists. Talk to you later, guys. Bye bye.